Hello, everybody. Welcome to the induction cooking class. Today we're using induction technology. If you guys don't know, induction technology uses electricity. It's a lot more efficient than a gas or a coil stove, and there's no residual heat on the surface because it uses magnetism and eddy currents to heat the pan directly. This reduces the indoor air pollution, and it's a lot easier to control the temperature on this. And we're sponsored by program EBCE. They serve the Alameda County. They buy clean power and deliver it to your house through the PG&E power lines. And if you guys wanted to test your own induction cooktop, if you guys live on the East Bay, you guys can go to ebce.org/induction cooking apply to rent your own induction cooktop from East Bay Community Energy. Without further ado, I'll put the recipe in the chat, but take it away, Chef Kelvin.
Thank you, Irving. Hello, everybody. Welcome again. Welcome again. So today, you guys, we're gonna have a nice little dish that we're gonna do. One of my favorite dishes that I like to make. And today we're gonna be doing a vegan Tex-Mex egg roll with a vegan avocado buttermilk ranch dip. Okay. Now the reason why I chose this dish for today is, you know, we're starting to get closer to, we're in spring right now. And right now during spring, there's a lot of sports. I'm a big sports fan. Maybe you have a lot of people in your family that are big sports fans. So this is a recipe that I love to have on the weekends to where I don't feel really guilty about indulging in a nice little healthy snack while I'm watching the game. So you can try this as well. But also too, this is a really nice snack you can make for, you know, when you're having like people over and you want to make sure you have something for people to snack on, okay? But yeah, so let's get started. All right, so first things first, guys, if you've been to my classes before, it's very interactive, so I want to let you guys know if you guys have any questions, please do not be shy. I am not shy at all. I will try my best to look at the chat, if you can put it in the chat, if you have any questions, or just, you know, if you are not shy, you know, just hop on the mic, ask a question, I'll try to answer anything that you have, okay? So, first things first, I like to do is I like to make sure that I have all my mise en place done. Now, you know, when I say mise en place, I mean all the ingredients that I need to get done, whether everything prepped up. So that includes chopping up your veggies or making sure you have all your spices ready to go, because it makes things a lot easier when you're cooking. Because sometimes when you're cooking things, you got to make sure that sometimes it calls for you to just start adding things back to back. So this is why I like to do mise en place, okay? So first things first, we're gonna look at our recipe and see what we need. So for our egg rolls, we're gonna need about a half a block of extra firm tofu. Now for my tofu, obviously when we have our tofu usually comes in a container and it's immersed in liquid. So what I usually like to do is I like to drain that liquid off and I'll just put it on the plate and wrap it in paper towel to get some of that extra liquid out of there. So I already have that ready to go. I'm just gonna put that to the side for right now, okay? Also, what we're gonna need for our recipe, you guys, is we're gonna need some olive oil. We're gonna need about a half a cup of black beans. You can use the canned black beans, it works fine. We're gonna need about 1 bell pepper diced, a half cup of corn. You can use that can as well. And then we're gonna also need to make taco seasoning. Now, you can go to the store and grab taco seasoning, but I love, because I love to cook, and I have spices all over, I like to make my own taco seasoning. And it's really simple. One thing we're gonna need about a tablespoon of chili powder. We're gonna need 1.5 teaspoons of ground cumin. And we're gonna need some sea salt, but I like to use kosher salt for this, but if you don't have kosher salt, that's fine, you can use sea salt. If you don't have either or, you can use table salt as well too, all right? We're also gonna need about a teaspoon of ground black pepper. I have my little mill here that I love to use. It works perfectly. I just load it up with whole corn, black peppercorns, and grind it up. And then we're gonna need about half a teaspoon of ground paprika. We're gonna need about a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, onion powder, crushed red pepper. Now, if you want a little spice, you can use red pepper, but you don't have to if you don't like things too spicy. So you can go without it. And then have a quarter teaspoon of dry oregano, which I have all together right here, all together, okay? So what we're gonna do for this is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add everything together to make our taco seasoning. So we have our chili powder there. We're gonna have our cumin. Make sure you get everything, no waste. We're gonna have our paprika. And we're gonna be like, maybe like a pinch of salt, a few cranks of black pepper, and then the rest of our greens was our onion powder, our garlic powder, our oregano, and our chili flakes. And then we're just gonna go ahead and just mix that in and then set that to the side, okay? All right, that's all good to go. Grab yourself a spoon. And just get that a nice little mix. And I love using my senses, so I love to give it a nice little smell. You see all those seasons and all those herbs and all those being combined all together. So I'm gonna set that to the side. Now, also what we need to do is we need to prep the rest of our things. So I have my bell pepper here. I'm gonna go ahead and prep my bell pepper. I really don't like to waste anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut off that bell pepper here. I don't like to use the pit because the pit is a little bit bitter. And so with the bell pepper, I really like using just getting down to the flesh because that's where the sweetness is at. So I might go ahead and just cut a little bit of that flesh off. But also too, if you have a green thumb, if you have a garden, you know, and you compost, please do compost, okay? But I like to get myself a nice little bowl and put that to the side because I have my nice little garden outside that I like to use for compost. All right. And then from there, I'm just gonna go ahead and dice this up. Now you can go for small dice. I prefer using, I would suggest doing small dice with this. And then when you're dealing with your bell pepper as well, you guys, you know, bell pepper can be a little pain in the butt, and I'll tell you why. Because you have this side right here that's very, very waxy. And sometimes when you're trying to cut your bell pepper, you know, it gets very, very slippery. And so I don't like using that because I like cutting on that side because, you know, it can be very, very dangerous, especially when it's really nice, it's really slippery. You know, there's a chance that you may, you know, just slip and slide all over the place and you may cut yourself. You know, so I like to go against the flesh. So, you know, with practice, you know, when you're cutting things, when you're prepping things, you know, when you're dicing things, always think about going with the flesh, okay? Cutting on the flesh. Make sure you give yourself some space and some room. I'm gonna use this to the side. I'm gonna use this bowl right here. Scoop everything in. That's one thing I love to do is make sure that I have enough space on my counter, my cutting board, or wherever I'm working with, because the more space you have, the safer you are. Like I mentioned before, this is exactly why I'm cutting these things up now, because it makes things a lot easier when we're putting everything together, okay? Please be careful. There's sometimes you can maybe get a veggie that is a little bit rotten on there. So make sure you don't put that in your food. So go ahead and just cut that part off and just toss a piece. That's gonna go in compost. And then just finish this off. And then once we get that done, then what we're gonna do is before we start really working on our egg rolls, you know, we're gonna switch over real quick and we're gonna go start working on our ranch dip. And the reason why I want to work on our ranch dip first is because I want to make sure that all those flavors get really combined together. Because sometimes when you're dealing with dips, when you're dealing with anything like that, you know, you want to make sure that you give everything time to just all those flavors to just combine together, you know, and mix together. And sometimes that takes time. Go ahead and put that to the side, but we have that ready to go. All right. I'm going to replace this real quick. Be right back. Okie dokie. Now that we got that out of the way, let's look at our avocado buttermilk ranch dip. So one thing we're gonna need is we're gonna need a small avocado. We have here. We're gonna need about a cup of almond milk or any other non-dairy milk. Here. And we're also gonna need about a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. I got some Bragg's organic apple cider vinegar that I love using. I also use this in the morning too, so it really helps with your gut and everything. So I have that with a little bit of water in the morning. Just a little hint, a little tip. Yeah, also we're gonna need about 2 green onions, 1 garlic clove, about 2 teaspoons of fresh dill chopped up, about a quarter cup of fresh parsley, juice of 1 lemon, and salt and pepper. Just that's it. So we have our parsley here. We're gonna have our cilantro here. Actually, no, we don't need cilantro, sorry about that. But we're gonna need our green onion here. And then we have our fresh dill. And we don't need that much of it, so maybe 2 tablespoons of that. So here we go, I'm just gonna need that much right there. And I'll show you what to do. I'll show you later on, show you what to do with your herbs if you're not using all your herbs, because sometimes herbs can go bad really fast. And so I'll show you just a few tips that you can use to really help, help your herbs to last a little bit longer than usual, okay? We also need about the juice of 1 lemon. So we got a lemon here. And what I'm gonna do with my lemon, I'm gonna go ahead and get those juices flowing in there. So I like to just go ahead and give it a nice little roll. And you can feel it kind of soften up. That's when you know those juices are really flowing through there, because sometimes you may get a lemon that's really hard. And when you cut into it, it's gonna be really hard getting all that juice out. So sometimes it's really good to just give it a nice little roll, okay? And then we have our salt and pepper to taste, okay? And when it says to taste, that's just what it means, just to taste, okay? You don't have to put so much in there. Just go ahead and put enough in there. But what that salt does and that pepper does is, especially the salt, is it really enhances everything else that you put in that dish. It's not to season the dish, it's not to flavor your dish, it's just to enhance everything that you put in there. So the lemon and the herbs and the garlic, it's gonna enhance everything, okay? So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna add my almond milk in. And then I'm going to get my apple cider vinegar going. So you just need about a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. That's it. And then we're just going to set that to the side for a minute, okay? Perfect. Let's set that to the side. Move that right there. And then we're going to go ahead and get all the rest of our stuff going. So we'll get our parsley going. So I need about a quarter of a cup of parsley. So I like to go ahead and just get a nice little rough chop. And the thing about it is you don't have to worry about too much as far as like making sure that when you're chopping it that you have to chop it up really fine, because we're going to be blending this together, okay? So you have to worry about that. So everything's going to get chopped up anyway, but we just need about a quarter cup of that. Make sure you measure it out. But if you want, if you're a fan of parsley, that's the thing about herbs is you can use a lot of herbs too, but you don't have to worry about it. It's not the same as if you're using salt. And that's where the creative side comes in, because when the difference between herbs and if you're using salt, if you use too much salt, then you can't come back from that, and it affects the whole flavor. But if you're using herbs, you can add a little bit more herbs if it's pretty much based on your preference, okay? But just don't use so much of it. All right. And then let's go ahead with the rest of our herbs. And what I like to do is just go ahead and just pull off all these leaves of our dill. And I try to keep away from the stems too with the dill, okay? If you're doing like parsley, or if you're making a dish or a sauce and you're using cilantro, herbs, I mean, the stems are fine, but with the dill, just get rid of the stems, okay? And that's gonna give it a nice little rough chop. to get that going. Okay. All right. All right, and put that to the side as well. Again, that's our mise en place. Back to our mise en place again. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and put that to the side. All right, now that we have that done, now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna cut that avocado in half. And just give it a nice little twist. And then sometimes I know a lot of people have a hard time really with removing the pit. Just go ahead, and it's all about confidence, you guys. Just go ahead, get that knife in there like that and give it a nice little twist. Comes right on out, okay? So when it comes to cooking, guys, the biggest thing is to no fear whatsoever, okay? But then go ahead and just go ahead and pull the rest of that out. Grab yourself a spoon, pull that out and discard the skins. And then from there, we're gonna go ahead and add this all together, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna give it a little hand too. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do this nice little chop, just to give it a little hand, because we're gonna be blending this up anyway. So go ahead, add that in. Doesn't have to be uniform at all, okay? And now for this, we can also use, and then we also want to go ahead and add the rest of our ingredients, okay? So then last but not least, we're gonna go ahead and add our dill, our parsley, and then our lemon. Making sure that we do not get any seeds in there, okay? Go ahead and chop up my green onions, add that in there. Now with my green onions, I love this because what I did was, anytime you go to the grocery store and you buy green onions and you cut your green onions down to, to the root, save the roots, okay? And just toss them in some water. Just go ahead and toss them in some water and they'll grow right back again, and you'll see, like, within a couple of days, you'll start seeing them growing back again. So you'll never run out. And I've been doing it for a while now. And so I don't have to go to the store. It saves you a lot of money. I'm all about saving money. I'm very frugal. Learned that from my mom. All right, and finally, we're gonna get a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. And also too, when I mentioned about the taste, is once you add your salt and your pepper in there and you start blending things up, then when you blend everything up, you want to taste it, okay? You want to taste your food and see if you need to add a little more or not. So that's why I start with a little bit first, and then from there, what I do is I taste it after I make it, and I blend it all together, then I taste it and see if I need a little more. If I need a little bit more, then I'll go ahead and add a little bit more, but I don't like to do so much at one time, because if I do add too much at one time, then what ends up happening is you probably put too much salt in there and there's no return for that, okay? So what we're gonna do now is go ahead and add my lemon, and then we're gonna blend this up. Now, if you have a blender, that's great, but if you have an emulsifier, I would suggest you guys invest in an emulsifier, okay? This does really, really well for vinaigrettes, and does really well for sauces, for soups. It does the job, okay? And it's really, really easy to clean, because I hate cleaning. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in. Go ahead and get my lemon in there. As you can see, I'm draining all that lemon. I'm squeezing the lemon out over my hand. The reason why I'm doing that, because my hand can easily catch any seeds that may fall in there, okay? As you see, there's a lot of seeds in here, but I want to make sure that I don't get any seeds in there. And I just squeeze my hand just to make sure that I get all the juice and none of the seeds, okay? And it takes practice, but practice makes perfect, right? All right, and from there, we're gonna go ahead and give it a nice little blend. And what's so great about it too is you would think that, hey, when you're making some type of dip like that, you worry about it getting really, really thick. But what really helps is that avocado, what thickens it up, okay? Now, again, like I mentioned before, we're gonna give it a little taste, and then we're gonna see if we need a little bit more salt or not. If not, then we're good to go, okay? Be right back. Grab my little tasting spoon. You see, may need a little bit more salt. Not much, but just a little bit. All right. One more little go. Nice and creamy and smooth. That's perfect. That's what I'm looking for. It has a nice little sweetness to it. And then we're gonna let this sit while we make everything else. We're gonna go ahead and let this sit in the refrigerator, and then we'll be good to go. All right. All right. All right. Moving on, you guys. So now that we got that done, just shuffle a little clean up. So now that we got that done, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take my tofu, you guys, and I want to try to get as much liquid out of there as possible because we're gonna be sauteing this and I want to make sure that it browns up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give it a little squeeze. As you can see, I'm getting a little bit of liquid out of there because there's still some left in there. So I'll just give it a nice little squeeze and try to contain it in my hand as much as possible. But as you see, as I'm squeezing, there's still a lot of liquid in there, okay? If it crumbles up, that's totally fine. Don't worry about it because we're gonna be crumbling this up anyway when we're cooking it off, okay? This is a good little workout too as well too if you're a gym buff. All right, that looks like good. And I'm gonna go ahead and get my little extra pieces out of there. But that was a lot of liquid that was still left in there, okay? That I wanna make sure that we get out of there. All right. All right, so now we got that done, you guys. Let's move on to our main dish. Now we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna get our induction burner nice and hot. All right, and then we're gonna add some olive oil in there, about a tablespoon of olive oil. About maybe 2 tablespoons of olive oil. That's just about enough right there. And then we're gonna do, you guys, is gonna make sure that it gets nice and hot. We already have our taco seasoning already ready to go. And we're gonna put this on medium high, okay? So I'm gonna put this on medium high. And if you have a number system, there's a number system that they have for these things, okay? And so for the medium high, we wanna go about, because it goes up to about 10. So we wanna go to about number of 6. What also I love about these two is, say for example, if you're frying any things and you need to be at a certain temperature, if you're using oil, they also go off of a temperature. So it keeps the temperature that you need to be at, which is what I love, okay? So we already have that ready to go. So now we have our taco seasoning. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna crumble our tofu in the pan and then let that saute. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna smash that in there because what we want to do is we wanna get it nice and brown. Then what we're gonna do from there is add only half of our taco seasoning. We're gonna do half right now for our tofu, and then we're gonna add the rest later when we add the rest of our ingredients, okay? And also what I love about this thing here too is it heats up really, really fast. Now, how will you know when it's ready to go? Is the main thing you want to make sure you do is you want to see a little bit of smoke coming from your pan, okay? You don't want to see a lot of smoke, engulfing smoke coming out from your pan, but you want to see a little bit of smoke here and there coming from your pan. That's when you know, also too, when that oil starts to move around really, really fast and really easily, then you know you're on the right track, okay? So that's what we're looking for. This is when we're using the sense of sight here. And sometimes what I like to do, I like to take a little bit of crumble here and also like to use the sense of hearing. If I add something in here, anything that I'm sauteing, if I add something to my pan and it doesn't sizzle, my pan's not ready to be cooked on yet. You hear that sizzle? That means we're ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead, take my tofu and crumble it all in there to little pieces like so. Make sure you get all of it in there. You can use a spoon, you can use a spatula. I'm gonna make sure I get everything. No way. All right, we got some action here in the comments. I love it. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Yes, James, I will definitely keep these things coming. I love giving these guys these tips. You know, I spent a lot of years in restaurants, and you know, a lot of chefs always say they want to keep their secrets and everything. Yo, I love to share. I like to share all these tips and secrets that I learn in the industry. Okay, because just because you're not a professional chef doesn't mean you're a chef. If you love to cook, if you love to just create things, if you like to try different things, you know, you like to switch recipes up, you're a chef. You know, it's the creative side of things. It's the creative aspect of things when you come to chefing. Okay. Also, James says I have a bad habit of moving and fidgeting with the pan while cooking. Does that affect induction stove while cooking? Yes, it does. And the reason why is because it's magnet based. Okay, so if you're sitting there now, if you go ahead, you know, sometimes when you want to do like the whole little flip and everything like that, you know, you moving things around, that's totally fine because as long as your pan is hot, then you're fine, you know. But as long as you don't take it off and things like that, then you're good. Then you're good to go. But for the most part, go ahead, toss things around. You know, it's good. It's good for you. So I can already see everything starting to brown up already. So I'm going to go ahead and just start mixing this around. But great question, James. Don't let anybody deter you from doing that. Okay, go ahead and mix things around, like so. If you feel like you know you're sauteing thing and you want to give it like a nice little shake, you give it a nice little shake. That's totally fine. I'm with you. Anybody have a problem with it? You tell them to come talk to me. Okay. All right, so now we're coming out of the pan. I'm gonna give it a nice little smash. And the reason why I'm giving a nice little smash down, you guys, is because I want to make sure that I'm getting a lot of that liquid out. Tofu retains a lot of liquid, okay? As you guys can see, after I sat there and like soaked up a lot of the liquid before, and that was like maybe hours ago, there's still a lot of liquid in there. So I want to make sure that this is nice and dry and crumbly, okay? Yes, yes. So I would say reach out to Irvin about the recording, because I would love for you to see the whole thing. Okay, hate to see you go, but you know we're still here and we'll still be cooking, and you'll get to see the whole thing, and then hopefully you'll be able to make it as well too. That's one thing I want you guys to do. You know, so a lot of people like to cook as we go. Sometimes that's a little bit hard to do because you know when it comes to moving fast. You know, some people are moving fast, some people are just, you know, nice and mellow with it. I'm a Libra, so I kind of have a nice little balance with it. But you know, I really, you know, suggest you guys really just, you know, watch the videos and try it yourself. And sometimes things don't work out. That's totally fine. You know, when you try again, man. You try again. You know, trial and error. Trial and error. That's all about cooking. Okay. All right, so what we're gonna do is now we're crumbling it up. We're breaking any large pieces out of here because we're gonna make a nice little crumble. You really want to have it like if it's like a ground beef or something like that, okay? And if you see things sticking to the pan, don't worry about that because we're going to what I love to do. Like what I love about cooking is the deglazing part of it, okay? So we go ahead, cook that down, okay? And then what we're gonna do from there is we're gonna let that heat for a few minutes until it starts to brown. I see it starting to brown a little bit. You can see it start to brown, and that's totally fine. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and you're gonna add a little bit of salt, but also we're gonna add half of that taco seasoning. Okay, we'll get that in there. Get that all mixed in. Once you get that all mixed in and covered up, as you can see now, get all those flavors in there. Then I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna press it down and press it down evenly across the pan, okay? So we can cook down evenly. So we wanna toss it to coat it. And then we're gonna do from there is, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add our black beans. We're gonna add our corn. Okay, and then from there, we're gonna also add our bell pepper. Now, one thing I love about the bell pepper, you guys, is it retains a lot of liquid as well too, okay? So say when we come to deglazing, something that really helps with the deglazing as well too, is when we add those bell peppers in there. And go ahead and mix that in together. And once we mix that in, then we're gonna add the remaining. Okay, we're gonna add the rest of our taco seasoning in. Make sure you get all of it. If you get so much trouble in the kitchen, man, for like not using everything and just wasting things, you know, because anything you waste, anything that's left over, you know, it costs, you know. And so my chef used to always charge it all the time, you know, whether it was $1 or anything like that. So I got tired of losing my money. Let's see. Do you need to use non-metal utensils with induction cooking? No. You can use metal as well. When it comes to the induction, only thing that you need, especially when it comes to your pans, you guys, whatever you're using to cook in, is you have to make sure that it can be magnetized. So what I use is I like to use stainless steel. Whether it's a pan or a pot, I use stainless steel or cast iron. Those work best. If you do not have that, if you don't have any of those, you can go on Amazon. I'll try to find a link for you, but you can go on Amazon and they have like a little sheet that you can put onto the induction burner that helps it activate. Because if you think about it, is if it's not cast iron or if it's not stainless steel, then it won't turn on, it won't heat up. So they do have a little sheet you can put underneath there that will activate it, because it runs off activation off of being magnetized. And so you'll have to do it that way. And they're really, really cheap too. They're not expensive at all. Okay, so now we got that all combined. At this point right now, you might not have a lot of liquid in there, so I have a little liquid on the side right here that I like to take. And this is my deglazing aspect of it, just to kind of break up those little bits and pieces. All right. And just like before, like I said before, you guys, you know, one thing I said before is, you know, when it comes to cooking, always make sure you're tasting your food, okay? Because sometimes you may find a recipe that looks good online, but you know, all recipes, if you ever notice, sometimes recipes are, you know, you find the same recipe, but you know, it may have different type of techniques, or it may have different ingredients, you know, and different amounts of it, depending on what the ingredient is. So, but usually they kind of like stay the same. But what I really implore you guys to do is make sure that you're tasting your food. That's how you know your food's gonna be seasoned really, really well. Okay. And again, and that goes down to even with the salt. You know, making sure that you know you're not just going ahead and throwing a bunch of salt in there. You know, go ahead and add your stuff together first, and then give it a nice little taste, and see if you need a little bit more. See? That's perfect. Doesn't need anything else. Now, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take this off. I'm gonna put it to the side. I want this to cool down a little bit. Okay. So when I put this to the side, what I like to do too is I like to put on a nice little sheet pan. The reason why I like to put on a sheet pan, because when it's all bunched up like this, you know, it takes a long time for it to cool down. The more spread out it is, it makes it cools down a lot faster. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do right now. Is I'm going to go ahead and move it to the side. I'm gonna get rid of this bad boy because we don't need this anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and get myself a sheet pan. So I want that to cool down, okay? Grab yourself a sheet pan and just spread that all through like so. And then we're gonna spread it all out just like this. And as you spread it all out, then it cools down a lot faster. Okay, so if you're in a rush, you know, you're like, oh my God, I overslept. I got people coming over. I don't know how I'm gonna get this done. I know I'm down dealing with wraps, and sometimes when things are really, really hot, it makes it really, really hard to wrap up, especially with this recipe. It makes it really hard to wrap up your egg rolls or your rolls in this, but it's nice when it's super hot. So I want to cool down fast, and so I'll do this, and I'll just spread it out really, really evenly, like so, and then it cools down a lot faster. Also, what helps too, guys, is once you start cooling it down, make sure every now and then you go ahead and you kind of like start mixing it up a little bit too, in case there's anything underneath that you need to like bring to the surface to cool down as well. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and move this. And for the rest of our dish, go ahead and clean off my section because one thing I like to do is I like to make sure that, you know, my section is nice and clean. Because a clean surface is a happy chef. So now we got our egg roll wrappers. We're gonna go ahead and take those out. And what we're gonna need for this is we're gonna need just our wrappers here. And then we're gonna do about maybe like about 5 of them for right now. But also too, you can go ahead too and make a bunch of them. You can make a bunch of them, you know, and freeze them. Now, if you have like, and so say for example, if you have a dinner party coming up and you want to do it ahead of time, then go ahead and get those all wrapped up. You don't have to fry them up or anything like that, but just wrap them up. You're gonna put them in a nice little sealed up container and toss them in the freezer, and they'll be ready to go when you need them. And then also we're gonna need is some water, because we're gonna have some water to fill it up. And then we're also gonna need our cilantro. All right. Now, what we're gonna do from here is we're gonna take one sheet, like so. As you can see, it's kind of cooled down already a little bit. But since we're pressed for time, we're gonna go ahead and give it a try. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a little bit of it, and you put it right in the middle, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and put it right in the middle. Not too much. You don't want to use too much, because if you use too much, what's going to happen is, you know, once you try to roll it up and everything, it's going to it's going to be way too much in there, and it's going to burst through. All right. So first thing first, we want to do is we want to cover up one side like so, fold it over again like so. Make sure it's nice and straight. And then I like to go ahead and fold that over to where it's covered up the meat or our filling. And then go ahead and take some water on your fingertip. Oh, before we do that though, because one thing we're missing is the cilantro. And I like to use the cilantro. That's one thing I like about it. I like that little fresh cilantro. So I like to go ahead, and I like to use the stems as well too. So if you have stems, I like to take a little sprig of the cilantro, maybe a couple of them, and then throw that right on top of that. Flip that over. Fold that over like so, and then give it a nice little roll. Like so. Okay, now add a little bit more to where it's going to seal at. And then we have one already done. Boom. And then just repeat. So right in the middle, I like to use maybe 2 spoonfuls. like so. And then I also like to just kind of like spread it out. So it kind of helps me as well too, as far as when it comes to putting it all together, you know, as far as the shape. And then again, the cilantro. I'm really big on cilantro. Go ahead, fold it over, one side, other side. Fold it over to where it covers up the filling. And I give it a nice little squeeze. And then before I start rolling, I take my finger, dip it in some water, and then I roll. And I kind of like tighten it up as I roll. And then put it on the other side where it's going to seal at. Now, that's not really necessary because it's already going to be wet, but it's pretty much up to you. Okay, let's do some more. And then once you get kind of get used to it, it goes like clockwork, you guys. Okay, you can get this done. It's like clockwork. You know, the more you do it, the faster you get at it. Because sometimes when you're preparing for a dinner party and everything, you know, you don't want to be sitting there all day cooking all day, and then once your guests get there and everything, you're exhausted. You know, you want a little bit of time to kind of like unwind and kind of get your mind right before all your friends or your family, if you have family coming over, and you have that one cousin, and you're just like, okay, the one cousin's coming over, and they get on my nerves, but you know, I know they're coming because my aunt's coming, and you know, you want to get ready mentally for that. But as I said before, you don't really have to go ahead and water up both sides. Just make sure that it's nice and sealed, like so. Move to the side. And then once we're gonna do a few more, and then we'll go ahead and we'll start frying these bad boys up, okay? And like I said before, practice makes perfect. This one I'm gonna do a little bit extra cilantro. Fold it over. Now here's the thing about it. Now if you like them smaller, like so, then you might want to fold it in a little bit more, like on the sides right here. But if you like them a little bit larger, then just go ahead and fold them. Just give it a nice little fold like that. You know, it's all up to you. Again, fold it over. Grab your water. This reminds me of when I was a kid, and you know, my mom used to make meat pies. You know, my dad's from Louisiana, and so that's where I get a lot of my cooking skills from. Is from my dad on my dad's side, because all the men on my dad's side cook. You know, and so he used to make a lot of meat pies. You know, make our own dough, and so my job was to, you know, dip my finger in the water and seal everything up. And I love that part because it was really, really simple. You know, I didn't have the pressure of cooking everything off and, you know, with the chance of burning things because I didn't want that responsibility, you know. But as I got older, you know, I really kind of took up the love for cooking. And then I went going to school for it, you know, and became more of a pro at it. But, you know, when you love something that you do, it doesn't feel like work. All right. Let's see here. All right. Last one. Let's do one more, like so. Get some cilantro. Also, too, what I suggest you guys do too, you know, and again, we can get creative with it too. So there is a lot of really good like vegan cheese that's out there, you guys. There's a lot of really good vegan cheese out there. When I do, you know, like my vegan grilled cheeses, they have some really good grilled cheese out there that you can also add to this as well too, shredded cheese that you can really spice up this dish as well too. Okay, so get creative with it, you know. All right. Now we got that done. Let's get to frying these bad boys up. Again, want to make sure my surface is clear and clean because that's just how I am. Egg rolls go to the side. Water go to the side because I don't need you anymore, sir. Thank you. Get all this up. as much as I can. And then from there, and then again, this is really why I love using this induction burner, because knowing that I need to fry this up, right? And sometimes when you're heating up, all right, bye Susan, glad to see you. Knowing that we need to heat this up really, really fast. This thing heats up really, really fast, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna crank this bad boy up to 10 right now. I'm gonna put it on high heat, because I can control the heat. And then I'm gonna cool down a little bit. So first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And then also while that's heating up, I wanna make sure that I have something that's gonna really, once my egg rolls are done, I can pull them out and let all the extra oil drain off. So I'm gonna grab myself a plate and a little paper towel. At the same time while I'm doing that, I'm gonna grab a little extra paper towel. I'm gonna show you guys, like I told you guys earlier, how we can really preserve those herbs for later on where they last a lot longer. All right, so I have my bowl here where I'm gonna be putting my egg rolls in. But for our herbs, you guys, find yourself a paper towel, okay? Find yourself a paper towel. Get it nice and damp. Don't get it too wet because you want to be able to open back up. Sometimes when it's too wet, you can't open it back up again. But get it nice and damp. And then you take your herbs like so, and just put them on the paper towel and just roll them right on up. With it being wet, it's going to stick and it's going to stay together, okay? Like so. That's going to help your herbs last a lot longer, okay? So you're going to do that with all the herbs that you guys have, all right? But I usually use it for parsley, I use it for cilantro, any big bunch of herbs that I have, that's what I use that for. And I just roll that up and I put it in the refrigerator. And then if it happens to dry out in the refrigerator, just go ahead and just add a little bit more water to it to keep it nice and damp, okay? That helps a lot. All right, and then I'm gonna go ahead and you want to get yourself a nice little spatula, not spatula, but some tongs, because I'm going to be pulling these things out of here, okay? Also, what I like to do too is, as you guys know earlier, like I just mentioned, I like to make sure that, things are nice and hot. So I'm going to add a little something in there. And once it starts fizzling up, that's what lets me know that my oil is hot enough to be ready to be fried up, okay? But also with these egg rolls, the thing about it is too, is they're going to cook really, really fast, okay? So you don't have to worry about, just make sure that you keep an eye on, don't walk away from it. They're gonna cook really, really fast. And you don't have to worry about anything in the middle being cooked fully because we already cooked it all. So I have my little trusty little baby tongs here because I don't have to, there's nothing that's deep fried right now. So I have my baby tongs here. And then what you wanna do is you wanna take it and you want to cook it seam side down, okay? So wherever that seam is at, go ahead and toss that in, seam side down. You can do a couple at a time, maybe 3 at a time, but you don't want to overcrowd it. Do not want to overcrowd it. When you overcrowd it, you bring down that temperature, okay? And that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to bring down that temperature because it takes a lot longer, and then that allows that oil to really soak up into your food, okay? And as you can see, they're going to start cooking up and browning up really, really fast. I like to give them a nice little toss real quick, move them around, but they're going to cook up really, really fast. And what we're looking for right now is just that nice golden brown. It's kind of like if you're eating with your eyes, okay? I'm going to turn this down a little bit now that we're nice and heated up. So I'm going to put it on probably like medium low right now. But it's all about eating with your eyes. So it's kind of like if you're at a restaurant and you're like, oh my God, I don't know exactly what I want. This menu is so nice, but I have no idea what I want. And then all of a sudden you see the waiter come by and you have this whole big old dish of food that is like, oh my God, it looks so good. It's eating with your eyes because it's just like, you're seeing something that looks very, very, looks very good. And so when it comes to anything you're cooking, especially when you're frying things, and we're looking for that nice golden brown color, okay? But also too, think of it like this too. Once you start seeing that nice golden brown color around and everything, and it may not look completely golden brown, don't worry about it, okay? Go ahead, take it out, because the thing about it is, it's going to continue to cook and it's going to continue to brown up, okay? So if you're looking for that perfect golden brown color and that nice crispiness, then wait till it gets nice and golden brown, and then immediately take it out. You see how fast this was? I'm about to take it out right now, okay? This is what we're looking for right here. Get all that excess out, oil out. Make sure you get all the excess oil out. Drain it out, drain it out. Beautiful. That's how fast this thing cooks up, okay? And they're nice and golden brown and crispy. And we're gonna do our last few right now. Remember again, seam side down, because you want that to seal up. That's gonna help everything seal up. The last 3 here. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna plate up, all right? And we did about 6 of these, but if you were to do this ahead of time, you know, you go ahead and make those ahead of time, that works perfectly, and then you don't have to worry about, you know, cooking all day and all night. So all you have to do really is just take them out, really just take them out the freezer and then fry them up, okay? Just take them out the freezer and fry them up, and they'll be good to go. And we got that going, and then we're gonna go ahead and plate up. I'm gonna find myself a nice little container that I can use for my sauce. As I mentioned before, do not walk away. I'm just right here. I'm gonna give it a nice little toss, turn them around, turn them over, turn them over. Look for that nice golden brown color. Looks beautiful. Remember, eating with our eyes, guys. That's another sense of sight. And then making sure we're taking them out before they get super brown, because again, like I said before, they're going to continue to cook. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out and drain those off. And last one. Beautiful. Turn it off. That's good to go. And then let's go ahead and start plating up. My favorite part. And why is it my favorite part, you guys ask? Because the reason why it's my favorite part, because, you know, it's the art aspect of it. I love art, okay? I love the art aspect of things. And so when it comes to this type of stuff, it's the art aspect of it. I like to play things up. I like the way they look. You know, I love the way it really emphasizes the dish. You know, sometimes I like to put a little bit of height on. I'll show you exactly what I mean. But also too, you know, I love finding nice and unique plates. I like to go to different stores. One of my favorite things to go to, if you guys, I go to, they have like a nice little Asian area of your city there, and find yourself a store that they usually have like, you know, restaurant supplies, things like that. You'll find a lot of plates like so. You find a lot of different plates that I really love to go find. I like driving around and finding garage sales, like going to thrift stores. You'll find some really nice plates, okay, and nice platters for things like that. All right. I'm really big on that. All right, so we got that going. Here's our sauce here. Looks beautiful. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna add some of that into our bowl here. Not too much. Boom, like so. Move that right in the middle. And then now I can easily just go ahead and just like, hey, I'm just gonna take these, I'm just gonna place them on there. No, absolutely not. I'm gonna get creative with it. So seam side down, and I'm gonna cut these on a bias, okay? I'm gonna use a nice little serrated knife. I'm gonna cut this on a bias I'm gonna put them all on the bias, just for presentation. And I'll show you what I'm doing here so you guys can see. But what I'm doing is I'm going ahead, I'm gonna give it a nice little cut on a bias, like so. And then I'm gonna take one and put it down. And then I'm gonna take the other half and I'm just gonna lean it right on top, like so. Really, really simple presentation that you probably see at a restaurant, but you can do at home as well, okay? Unfortunately, there's no games on that I wanna watch today, you know, but I'll be watching tomorrow, go Lakers. I don't know if you guys, I know we're probably in the Bay Area, we got a lot of Warrior fans on here, you know, and that's totally fine, but I'm a Laker fan and we've been doing pretty good. So, you know, I'm gonna be making some of these tomorrow because we got a game tomorrow. And so I'm gonna need a nice little snack to watch the game with. And you guys, there we are. We have some Tex-Mex, vegan Tex-Mex egg rolls with our vegan avocado ranch dip, buttermilk ranch dip. Yes, yes, please, please, James, please do so. Please do so. The induction burner, man, there's so many different things you can do with it, okay? That, you know, especially, and the biggest thing about it is it conserves energy, you know, it saves our planet, man. You know, it saves our planet when you lose less and less gas. And a lot of things that you can do on the stovetop with gas stovetop, you can do with an induction burner. And then also too, you know, you can take it on the go. You know, if you have electric, so even like if you go camping and they have electric outlet, if you go, well, not camping, but more glamping, you know, and they have electric outlet, you know, to get those canisters of gas, okay? Use your induction burner. Great for breakfast, you know, but as long as you have the right equipment for it and everything, you're good to go. But yes, there you guys are. I'm gonna go ahead as always, because I don't make food and not taste it. Looks good. Oh, I am game ready. I am playoff ready. Really good. It has a nice little kick of that spice from the pepper flakes, red pepper flakes. It's good. It's not too hot, but it gives a nice little tingle. You have that crunchiness from the corn and the bell pepper and the black beans and the tofu. This is great, guys. So I hope you guys really, really enjoyed it. I hope you guys really tried this recipe out. Please do. And I hope to see you guys next time, because in a couple of weeks, we'll be doing another dish for you guys, okay? Because it's playoff time and I'm all about snacks. And before you know it, it'll be football season.